My grandfather's name was Shlomo Bick. He came from Lodz, Poland. Him and his family, Tzippa, my grandmother, his children, Sarah, my mother, Yankele, and Mira, lived a wonderful life in Lodz, Poland for many years. A very successful life, a successful businessman, a good, kind man. And then everything changed. In 1939, the war began. By 1940, the whole family was sent to the Lodz ghetto. Their entire life was changed. The Lodz ghetto was a devastating place. No food, hunger, starvation, torture, death. Family tried to survive as best as they could. In 1942, however, my grandfather Shlomo perished from starvation. He's the only one that had a grave. The rest of the family was sent in August 1944 to Auschwitz. Thank God we have one grave to visit. Shlomo Bick lay in the Lodz ghetto for 81 years, all alone, unvisited, until his gravesite was discovered by my niece and then followed by my grandson, Noam Shlomo. This is the story of Shlomo Bick and the visit made by my grandson, Noam Shlomo, to his gravesite. This is Noam Shlomo's story.
So when we got to the Lodz Ghetto Cemetery, first we stepped in the morgue, and there was a bunch of pictures, displays all around the morgue, but it wasn't really of the actual cemetery. It was just of the Lodz Ghetto, really. But there was only one picture of a stone, only one. And out of the somewhat over 200,000 graves there, I was looking around, and then when I saw the stone, I didn't first focus on the words. I just focused on, it was a little dirty, it was in the ground. And then I focused in on what it said, right? And then that's when my jaw dropped. It said Solomon Bick, right? The one grave out of the hundreds of thousands that are there was my great-great-grandfather. So my jaw dropped, and I was like, what? This is impossible. How is this the only one out of the hundreds of thousands that are in this cemetery? My great-great-grandfather is the one that they set up for everyone to see. All the visitors there are coming and seeing this one picture. So then we walked into the cemetery, and it's just a vast, endless graveyard of, there's a whole newer part to it, and the side is a whole older part to it. And I knew somewhat of the location of his grave. I didn't know what it looked like, but now I did. Once I saw the picture in the morgue, I finally knew what his gravestone looked like. But another issue was that it was in the ground, so you can't really see it upright. So you have to go one by one, checking every single one of them. So me and two friends went to the somewhat location of where I thought it was, which was all the way down to the left of the cemetery. And got even harder when we saw that it's just in an empty, vast wasteland, reeds, and everything was overgrown. Nothing was taken care of and clean. It was kind of gross and disgusting. And all the graves were being overgrown and things growing on top of them. You couldn't really see any of the gravestones, and you had to walk through brushes and bushes to get anywhere in the section of the cemetery we were at. And so me and two of my friends were looking, and pretty quickly we found, my friend yelled over, "Is this it?" Showed him the picture of what it was, and he saw that he found that one, and it's only a couple minutes into us looking. So I went over, and I was like, wow, what are the odds that I thought I wasn't gonna find it. What are the odds that I was actually gonna find his gravestone out of this huge, endless cemetery. So my friends went back to the group who were still taking a tour on the other side of the cemetery, and I stood there alone with my thoughts, and I felt automatically, I felt that connection when I saw Solomon Bick, my middle name, Solomon Shlomo, Noam Shlomo. I just automatically felt the connection, because my grandmother would always tell me stories of what a sweet, kind, loving man he was, and he cared deeply about his family. Endless stories about his caring, about his kindness, endless stories. So I just felt that connection, and I stood there for a while, and then with my thoughts, and I went back to the group, and the director of the group, the tour guide, asked me, did I find it? And I'm like, I actually did. So the whole group, we went over to where it was at. I showed him. I had to take the whole group through all the brushes and reeds and everything, which was pretty difficult, but we all got there, and we stood in a circle, and I said some words about him, and then said that he was buried 82 years ago. He was buried, and he never had a proper funeral. He was just put in the ground because you couldn't really have any proper funeral in 1941. So you couldn't have any proper funeral, and so we gathered around his grave, and it just his loneliness. He was lonely there for so long until me and all my friends surrounded him, and we started singing, and it got very emotional. Just the thought of nobody ever going to visit all these graves, really, but he was really one of the only ones that had a gravestone, because my great-great-grandmother went back and put a gravestone there, which really helped me find it and be the only visitor to go keep him company, give him a little warmth. And we sang, made him a nice funeral. It was very emotional. And then I reached into my pocket. The whole group left. I stayed. I reached into my pocket, and I had an Israeli flag in my pocket. I took it, and I laid it across the grave. And later on, I put it on a stick right next to the grave. And was thinking how proud he would have been of the Jewish world today. And the fact that in this vast wasteland of nameless graves, I'm looking down at my great-great-grandfather who has a name on his grave is just the ultimate proof that the Nazis, whose mission was to erase all Jewish names, to erase my name, my middle name is after him, my namesake, to really erase my name, they ultimately failed miserably. And it's the biggest slap in the face to how successful we are now.